Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Fake Chats. I'm your host, Andrew Burnett, and today I have with me Jeff Dornik of the Jeff Dornik Show and Unsanctioned Podcast. Welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me on. Been looking forward to chatting with you.
Well, I'm excited to have you, and to begin the conversation, Elon Musk has made headlines again, this time for reportedly scrapping plans for a new political party and throwing his weight behind JD Vance for a potential 2028 presidential run. As someone who has interviewed heavy hitters like Cash Patel and General Michael Flynn, what's your initial take on Musk pivoting from party builder to kingmaker?
I mean, I'm not surprised given JD Vance's history, with Silicon Valley and these tech companies and all that. I mean, he worked with Peter Thiel and was a investor and all that kind of stuff in Silicon Valley, startups and all that kind of stuff. So I'm not surprised. I think that for me personally, it's a bit JD Vance's is interesting because he's phenomenal on a variety of issues. But what I'm really concerned about is his focus on technology and artificial intelligence and all of that, and especially his close ties with a lot of these movers and shakers within Silicon Valley that are basically developing the technology that will eliminate the need for humanity to be in existence, really. And that's not just hyperbole. Like that is legitimately what guys like Elon Musk and Bill Gates and Sam Altman and Larry Ellison are talking about, is that within the next decade, that artificial intelligence and Optimus robots and cyborgs and all that kind of stuff is going to replace the need for human beings to be in the workforce at all, period, whatsoever. And that basically, in the words, and this is not me paraphrasing Elon Musk, but that he's going to usher in a communist utopia where we all live on universal basic income and we rely on either the government or these tech companies to, pay our bills and put food on our table and all of that. And so when you look at it from that perspective, I'm concerned about JD Vance becoming the next president of the United States, not because he's not a good guy. I think he's phenomenal in so many things, but this one issue is it could be potentially be so catastrophic to the future of humanity that I don't think that I can get behind it in the same way that Elon is, but it makes sense given that Elon is one of the guys developing this technology that will centralize the power in an ultimate way, and I don't know if there's really much coming back from that.
So, what do you make of Musk's apparent endorsement of Vance?
I think that it is in I think Elon Musk can be very opportunistic, and I think that he sees that the Trump administration is fast tracking AI wherever they can. And I think that JD Vance would do it that much faster, just given his understanding of technology, his ties with technology, and all of that. So I think that what all these big tech guys, they're kind of jockeying for position around the Trump administration and potentially a JD Vance administration for position to basically be the ultimate company that's contracting with the federal government in a variety of ways. OpenAI has government contracts. XAI has government contracts. Larry Ellison with Oracle has government contracts, and I think that they're all kind of jockeying for position to try to be the forefront, the leader of the AI movement, working in conjunction with the United States federal government. And to me, I think it's a bit of an opportunity financially and from a power standpoint for somebody like Elon Musk to do that.
So, is this a genuine alignment on issues like free speech and tech innovation, or more of a strategic play to counter the establishment?
I think from Elon Musk's perspective, it's I don't even think it's a free speech thing because I don't think that Elon Musk is much of a free speech guy as everybody makes him out to be. I mean, he legitimately has a policy in his terms of service that says freedom of speech, but not freedom of reach, which means they'll allow you to say whatever you want, but that doesn't mean they have to let anybody actually see it. And in all reality, X was a massive data collection scheme. So when he buys it for $44 billion, he got a loan in order to buy it, and then he ended up selling X over the last several months to his artificial intelligence company XAI. So now X is a subsidiary of the artificial intelligence company because they're collecting all the data. So I don't think that Elon Musk is backing JD Vance for a free speech perspective. I think he's doing it for a technological perspective because JD Vance will continue and if anything fast track the already fast tracked strategies being employed by the Trump administration for technology and artificial intelligence, because they're going to need massive data centers. They're going to need, all the kinds of resources, electricity, water, all of our natural resources in order to funnel in to fuel this, really. And so he needs to cozy up with somebody that will do that. And right now, that's not the Democrats. The Democrats are not the party that's cozying up with these AI guys. It's the Republicans. It's the Trump administration. And so, now you're seeing Mark Zuckerberg and Jeff Bezos and Larry Ellison all coalescing around Republicans, which is unheard of just last year. But they're doing it because they see the writing on the wall that if they want their technology implemented and fast tracked, they need to cozy up with the Republicans, not the Democrats, who are opposing anybody that makes more than, let's say $1 million. It's crazy.
So, in your promo for Pickaxe, you call out billionaires like Musk and Gates for pushing AI to make human labor obsolete, framing it as potential enslavement rather than progress. With Musk now influencing politics, how worried are you that this could accelerate a future where unelected tech overlords control not just our jobs, but our votes and our freedoms?
I'm extremely concerned because that's what they're literally saying. Like they're telling us this is the end game. So there was a couple of years ago, Elon Musk had a conversation with Benjamin Netanyahu, and they were talking about the future of AI. And Netanyahu asked Elon, "What's the end game here? Like, where is AI taking us?" And Elon said it's going to go one of two directions. It's either going to be Terminator, where the robots take over and we're in a constant war and a fight for humanity against the robots, or it's going to be heaven on earth. And Netanyahu naturally asks, "Okay, describe heaven on earth. What does that look like?" He basically describes the movie Wall-E that Pixar put out several years ago, which is basically, we don't need to work. We're basically, our brains are connected to the internet. So we just visualize something, think about something, it happens. We can 3D print food. We can do all these kinds of things. There'll be universal basic income, which is now he's calling universal high income, which is interestingly even more concerning because it's not money coming from the government where, theoretically their job is to protect our constitutional rights, but it's actually what they're calling a dividend. And Sam Altman's saying this, and Bill Gates and Elon Musk, where it's actually a dividend from the tech companies that they're paying to us in exchange for replacing our jobs. And so what's going to end up happening is now we're reliant upon these private companies, these private entities that have centralized all the power because they control all the resources because of the Optimus robots and artificial intelligence and all the technology. We're completely reliant upon them. So if they don't like what we're saying, just think about all the censorship we saw with all these big tech companies, right? We get kicked off the platform. Imagine what happens if now we're reliant upon them for putting food on our table, if we're reliant upon them for having a roof over our head. Think about the kind of self censorship that will happen because you're like, I don't want to piss off, I don't want to piss off the company that's paying me to stay home, so I'm not gonna challenge them, and I'm not gonna say anything. I'm gonna self censor myself and change my beliefs in order to fit in with that because that's where my life comes from, is from these private companies. That's where they're taking us, and so to me, obviously that's completely antithetical to everything our founding fathers ever intended for this country, but also it's antithetical to everything. Like if you're a Christian and you believe in inalienable rights and you believe that you're created in the image of God, this is going against everything that the Bible teaches about self-sacrifice, about self-sovereignty, about property ownership, about providing for your family, about the theological idea of sanctification, where you're struggling over the course of your life to becoming more Christ-like. You learn from your mistakes, you struggle, you grow. What these guys are talking about is eliminating all struggle, and you live in this quote-unquote communist utopia where you don't have to learn, you don't have to do anything, you just are there. And to me, that's an extremely dangerous place to be, not only from a Christian theological perspective, but also from a self-sovereignty perspective of, you are not truly free if you have no ownership, if you have no control, if you have no work, if you're completely reliant upon somebody else. You are in essence a slave by definition, because you only get your sustenance, your food, your water, your money, your housing if you play by their rules. If you don't play by their rules, you basically cannot survive. And that's kind of what the book of Revelation predicts will happen if you don't take the mark of the beast coming in the future.
So Musk often positions himself as a free speech absolutist, yet Twitter, now X, has faced criticism for algorithmic biases. If he's backing Vance, a vocal critic of big tech censorship, do you see this as Musk walking the talk or just another layer of corporate theater?
It's all theater. It's legitimately all theater. I mean, and I've called this out from day one when Elon bought, X, and they started talking about this idea of freedom of speech but not freedom of reach, it's a contradictory statement. Because if you go back to the First Amendment and you look at what freedom of speech and freedom of the press is, I think everybody understands what freedom of speech is. You can verbally say whatever you want without restriction from the government. But what people forget is what you also have freedom of the press, not as a journalistic corporation that works for a big company, but you as an individual have freedom of the press. And what does that mean? And people forget this. It's not that you write for a newspaper. It's that you as an individual have the right to write out your grievances on a piece of paper, go down to your local printing press, print out as many pamphlets as you want. You can go down to your local town square and distribute them freely without restriction from the government, right? So that was the original intention from our founding fathers. You had freedom of speech, which is verbal. You had freedom of press, which is what you could write out. And so when you're looking at it from that perspective, the key there is that it was without restriction. So the equivalent of freedom of speech but not freedom of reach, which is what Elon Musk is doing, would be like, our founding fathers said, yeah, you can write out your grievances as much as you want, but as an individual, because we like what you say, you can print out 1,000 pamphlets. But because we don't really like what you say, you can only print out 50. Now that's basically what's happening with the policy that's happening over there on X, is that basically the algorithms and their Overton window of what they establish is picking winners and losers and artificially limiting or amplifying your speech based upon your quote unquote social credit score is what they've implemented. So everybody actually has a score. I believe it's 0 to 99, and based upon how extreme you are, how inside the Overton window that they establish or not, dictates how easily you can be seen. The number of followers that you have on the platform that you've earned has almost no bearing on whether you actually get visibility. So you can't actually earn your visibility. So now you're artificially being restricted, or they're picking winners and losers. So by definition, you cannot be a free speech platform if the platform is artificially restricting your ability to be seen. Now, obviously, somebody who has 100,000 followers should be seen more than somebody who has 5 followers based upon what they've earned. But two people who have 100,000 followers should not artificially be limited on one or artificially amplified on the other, or else now you cannot, by definition, call yourself a free speech platform.
So you've hosted voices like Senator Ron Johnson and Dr. Pierre Corey, who've battled tech-driven narratives on health and policies. How might Musk political moves reshape the information wars, especially if AI starts replacing journalists or podcasters like me and you?
Because they will be able to control the narrative, and the narrative will be whatever benefits them the most. And if you think that they're not going to be coming after thought leaders and commentators or what, like, they're doing this, like Mark Zuckerberg over with Meta is investing $65 billion into developing artificial intelligence specifically for the purpose of replacing human content creators with AI generated content creators. Their ultimate goal, and I've talked to multiple people that are shareholders in the company and listen to all the shareholder meetings and all that kind of stuff. Their end goal with Meta is to replace human content creators altogether, to where humans become the consumers and the AI generated content creators become the creators, the influencers, the people that are giving you your information. And they're already beginning to do this. So Mark Zuckerberg's actually been talking about the fact that, and I forget the exact numbers, but I'll paraphrase. But it's as if he said, that human beings have capacity for, let's say, 50 friends, but the average person actually only has about 15 actual friends, not acquaintances, but actual friends. So what we're going to do with technology is actually use AI to generate new friends for you that are AI generated, that are on there, that you can now interact with, message with, and all that. And we're already seeing that with a lot of the AI companions and all that kind of stuff. And so the ultimate goal here is to centralize the power to where they control all the narratives. What will the narratives be? The narratives will be whatever benefits them the most. And now we're going to get into a new era of information war that I don't think that we're ready for yet, because now it's no longer the information war that's controlled by the governments, although they'll continue to try to do certain things. It's going to be an information war between Meta and Oracle and the Chinese Communist Party and XAI and Google and all these platforms that have that control these AIs and have influence over the individual people. And it's going to be an information war about what benefits them as their corporations the most and their advertisers and their power and the centralization of power, as opposed to it being between the United States and the United Kingdom and Israel and Hamas and Iran and Russia and China. It's not going to be about the government. It's going to be about the private entities. And I would argue that's actually far more dangerous to the future of humanity than information wars between countries, because countries can be held accountable by their people. How do you hold accountable a private entity that controls all the flows of information? That's an entirely different battle that I don't think we're prepared to fight.
So, your upcoming book, Following the Leader, dives into true leadership in chaotic times. J.D. Vance has risen fast from hillbilly elegy author to VP contender. Does he embody the kind of principled leader that you're advocating for, or is he too tied to the Silicon Valley orbit Musk represents?
Yeah, well, so it's interesting. So specifically with the book, following the leader, my it's funny because my main principle, my main thesis of the book is that we should not be following any leader here on Earth. Our only leader should be God. And I think that we put a lot of these guys up on pedestals, and then we play this game of follow the leader, which sets us up to be led astray. And the thing is that you can have the best politician, the best pastor, the best human being possible, but they will lead you astray, because every single human being is fallen, and every single human being has some blind spot, has some sin, has something wrong with them. And that if you're just playing follow the leader and just being a parrot and repeating what they say, you're going to set yourself up to be led astray in one way or another. And depending on who you follow, you'll be led astray less or more depending on the person. But what my thesis and my argument in the book specifically is, you are being manipulated by the powers that be. Now that could be in a whole host of issues. It could be your favorite pastor. It could be you're influenced by your politician. It could be a good politician, a bad politician, Democrat, Republican, conservative, liberal. It doesn't matter. Is that if you are playing follow the leader, now all of a sudden, now you're finding your identity in that person or in that movement or in that, whereas you should be finding your identity in Christ, in God, in the Bible. So if you're going to play follow the leader, it should be following after God. It should not be following after a person, whether it's Trump, Vance, Democrat, Republican, fill in the blank. The Apostle Paul actually writes about this, and I forget in the book specifically off the top of my head, but he's like, why are you following Peter? Why are you following me? We're just tools being used by God. You're supposed to be following after Christ. And so stop identifying with us, identify with Christ. But the powers that be know that the key to influencing masses of people is to get them siloed into different groups where they find their identity in that group, and then they can co-opt that group, and then they can give them enough truth, enough good information to keep them going, but enough bad information to lead them off the mark of the truth and what's actually going on. And I think that we have to be very careful of that. So how do we deal with it? We back off of these levels of influence, and you can support somebody if they align with your worldview. That's completely fine, but don't find your identity in that person. Don't be a follower of that person. Don't view people as your leader. Your only leader should be Christ. Follow Christ, and then you can align yourself with whoever also aligns with Christ in your worldview, and that's completely fine. But don't just follow them and see them as your leader. Nobody should be your leader but Christ.
That's great. Well, Jeff, you got any exciting upcoming guests on your podcast coming up that our listeners would like to take a listen to?
Yeah, I'm coming up. I'm finalizing the date right now, but I'm going to be having Dinesh D'Souza coming on my show here soon. We're going to be talking specifically about Tucker Carlson, because I think it's a very interesting discussion and debate, both theologically as well as politically and culturally, over Tucker Carlson and his interview with Nick Fuentes and criticisms of Israel and not and all of that. And so going to be having him on the show, and I'm also organizing a debate between a Zionist pastor and a replacement theology guy as well, to where we can actually dive into scripture. What does the Bible actually say? And then both sides can kind of debate and then allow people to kind of, decide, which side is right. Because I think right now what's happening in the political and theological ecosystem right now is everybody's talking past each other, because again, what I was talking about, like, they find their identity in these beliefs and in these worldviews and in these movements. And so then it just becomes, how do we destroy the other side? Whereas I want to actually dive into what's the truth. Like, can we actually just have a substantive debate and discussion over what does the Bible say? What are the real world implications of this? Because in this, and I'll just say this from my perspective, I find myself not fully aligning with either side, and because I can kind of poke holes in both arguments. So that's why I kind of want to sit down both sides. Let's actually discuss this, debate this, and let's figure out what the truth actually is, as opposed to the rhetoric. So those two things are be coming up. I'm going to be making some announcements on dates for both of those coming up here really soon.
Well, Jeff, thank you so much for your time. God bless you, and I look forward to the next time we get to chat.
Sounds good. I appreciate it.
All right, you have a good one.
You too.